news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, raining in Ottawa, 4 degrees. Also rain in Smiths Falls and 5. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Temporary fencing has gone up around Parliament Hill this morning. That began this morning. Is it in preparation for a police operation to end the protest downtown? Well, the police won't say. Interim Chief Steve Bell says they do have a plan. It was developed by some of the best minds in the country to bring the protest to an end. Bell says police began warning the protesters with leaflets yesterday outlining what they could face if they're arrested for violating the Emergencies Act declared by the federal government this week. Bell says he still hopes this plan won't have to be used.
Those that are occupying our city, get in your vehicles and go home. We're starting to actually increase pressure on them and encourage them to leave our streets. My absolute hope is that they do that prior to us having to intervene.
Bell says he does have absolute confidence in this plan developed to end the occupation in Ottawa's downtown. Windsor police say their officers intercepted a transport truck convoy. It was suspected of heading to occupy the Ambassador Bridge once again. The chief says a convoy of trucks stopped by officers about 250 kilometers from the city on the 401. That was in the past 36 hours. The chief says they came from Ottawa but turned around once they were stopped. City News Time 9:01. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Winter storm warning in effect for up to 30 centimeters of snow by early Friday. We've got special weather statements for the rain and the messy mix possible for the afternoon. Already reached our high for the day for the afternoon 0, minus 14 for the low. Blowing snow with the north wind. Should end that snow around 6 tomorrow morning, then sun and cloud and a cold high just minus 11. For today, already reached our high for the day for the afternoon 0.
And right now, raining and 4 degrees in Ottawa, 5 degrees in Smiths Falls. Diane Deans is no longer head of the Ottawa Police Services Board, voted out 15-9 at a special council meeting yesterday. Now, the reason for that ouster, according to the mayor, was Dean's decision to hire an interim police chief from outside the region to a 10-month contract. Mayor Jim Watson says Deans told him about this idea, but he rejected getting a signed contract. Deans apparently agreed with that, but then went out and got the contract signed anyway.
It didn't make any sense whatsoever. We need all hands on deck, and we need some stability and consistency, and that's why I think people were expressing their displeasure with the current or the former chair.
Mayor Watson says a new board must now sort out this dual interim chiefs. Carol Anne Meehan resigned from the Police Services Board over this move. Now she's going to be on the Rob Snow Show coming up in just a matter of minutes. More restrictions brought in to slow the Omicron wave have now been lifted in Ontario. More from City News reporter Laura Carney.
It is welcome news for the industries hardest hit by the pandemic. Capacity limits gone in gyms, restaurants, bars, and movie theaters now able to fill all their seats if they want. Casinos and bingo halls can also be at full capacity, though you do still have to show proof of vaccination. There's also no limit to organized outdoor public events. Sports arenas and concert venues are allowed to be at 50% capacity. If the COVID picture in this province remains on the right path as of March 1st, all remaining capacity limits will be dropped, as will proof of vaccination. We'll hear from the province's top doctor later today. Laura Carney, City News.
And it was a 3-2 victory for Team Canada over the United States in women's hockey to claim the gold medal at the Beijing Olympics. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
If the Canadian women's soccer team and the Canadian women's hockey team got together and ran the country, I think we'd be in much better shape than we are right now. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. It's going to be a day of breaking news and fast-moving developments, and we'll do our best to keep you right on top of it. There is a lot of buzz on the social media platforms and an enforcement action is getting underway in Ottawa, and that's what we're going to be watching for throughout the morning to see if and how that takes shape. There are videos on social media. You can hear the truck horns blaring again throughout Centertown this morning. There is a video of one of the organizers of this protest, Pat King, telling his supporters that it's going down or something along those lines. The city, let's face it, after 20 days of this, the city was awash in speculation yesterday that something's afoot, that law enforcement is in the final stages of putting whatever plan it has together. And interim Ottawa Police Chief Steve Bell told the public yesterday what he could. Said that they feel they have the numbers to move in on the protesters and end this once and for all.
So, Councillor McKinney, I can't speak to the specifics of the plan because it would jeopardize its operational success. But what I can tell you is there's a number of interventions that you will see, that you have already seen over the last 24 hours, and you will continue to see over the next day and coming days that will achieve exactly what you're asking for.
Okay. He issued a caution that what we may see in the coming days is something that we're not used to seeing in Ottawa. That we're not used to seeing. He would not elaborate on that. Something that we're not used to seeing. So as you know, by now, the police were out there yesterday. They were handing out these paper notices, warnings, right, to the protesters. Warnings that what they're doing is illegal, that there are severe penalties in place, warning them that they should leave. But if you've, watched the news at all, and I mean, it's been all over the news. The protesters are all over the news. Those willing to talk to the news media anyway, in unison, they've all been saying they're not going anywhere. And there was a warning issued yesterday by the child welfare authorities that raised more than a few eyebrows, I'm sure. A warning to parents with children in the protest zone that they should leave or make alternate arrangements for the care of their children in case of a police action. In case of a police action. Now, I will say this. On my morning trip around the protest zone, I've been doing that early in the mornings, I noticed a lot more police this morning. And when David and I got together for our little morning meeting this morning, David said the same thing. A lot more police downtown. A lot more. Many more police cruisers than we have seen in recent days. There is new fencing up around the grounds of Parliament Hill, according to our reporter down there right now, Mark Day. But again, and these are just my own observations, not much of a difference on Kent Street, north of Lisgar. That Kent Street is still as shut down as it has ever been because of this protest/occupation. I mean, if any vehicles have moved off Kent Street, trucks or otherwise, if any trucks have moved off Kent Street, it is so few that it is barely even noticeable. And when I did my slow drive-by the parking lot next to the ballpark this morning, I didn't notice any difference there either. It looks the same as it has looked all week, which is to say lots and lots of vehicles. The tents are still there. The trucks are still there. The RVs are still there. And extraordinary, really, I don't know if you saw this on the TV news. The police go there to the ballpark parking lot to try and hand out those warning notices. And the protesters, they won't even let police on the property. Like, it's city property. 21 days. It's all just surreal, isn't it, that this is the state of affairs? It really is. 21 days after the trucks First rolled into town, 21 days. So the warnings have been issued, and, the city is abuzz with rumors of something. There's something happening here. What it is, it ain't exactly clear. Now, coming up on the show in a few minutes' time, City Councillor and now former member of the Ottawa Police Services Board, Carol Anne Meehan. The Watson Coalition did manage to boot Diane Deans out as chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board. They tried but failed to oust Councillor Carol Anne Meehan, too. She resigned. And so did Councillor King. Ralston King, very impressive rookie councillor, first black city councillor in the history of the city of Ottawa. He also resigned as a member of the Police Services Board yesterday. Man, there are a lot of moving parts to that story. Thousands and thousands of people watching the stream of an evening council meeting that lasted well into the night. And by the chatter, it doesn't look like the mayor and his council allies left a very good impression. So that move on Deans, that has the mayor's fingerprints all over it, obviously, right? Let me tell you something. You have the bake sale, Jim Watson. You have, the seniors' tea, Jim Watson. You have the teddy bear picnic, Jim Watson. But you also have Jim Watson, political animal, with a mean streak. I've seen the mean streak. I've been on the other end of the mean streak. And I think that's what it was at work yesterday. Look, Diane Deans, Jim Watson, they go back a long time. Okay, they've both been around City Hall for decades. And they don't get along, and they've clashed repeatedly. So I'm not surprised at all that Jim Watson would move to just stomp all over Diane Deans and make her wear her share of this mess. And if it spoils her campaign for mayor, well, then that's just icing on the cake. That's the other side of Jim Watson. That's not the bake sale Jim Watson. It emerges from time to time. The claws come out. So, what a spectacle. Mid-crisis remaking of the Police Services Board. On the fly. One day after the chief of police resigns. Now, speaking of mean streaks, this was evident yesterday, too, for anyone unfortunate enough to watch the House of Commons question period. It wasn't quite the circus that our city council meeting was, but it was close. It was like in the Olympic spirit, it was the silver medal for dysfunction. The Prime Minister, who was Mr. Nowhere for weeks, the Right Honourable Mr. Nowhere, hit back against any criticism for his use of the Emergencies Act. The Prime Minister is going to make a speech in the House of Commons around 10 o'clock this morning and defend his use of that legislation, first time ever since it was passed almost 35 years ago. And there should be vigorous debate about that. But the Prime Minister doesn't do debate. He prefers insults. And he accused Melissa Lantsman, of all people, Melissa Lantsman, rising star in the Conservative Party, not just in the Conservative Party, in the Conservative movement in this country. Openly gay marriage, Jewish, represents a large Jewish population, riding with a large Jewish population in Thornhill. And Mr. Trudeau basically said she supports Nazis. Do you have some tape of that? Yeah, roll the tape on that.
In 2015. These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same Prime Minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency. So, Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister lose his way? When did it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop.
Your MPs. So you see how that went over with the opposition. No apology from the Prime Minister. He just slipped out the back door again. He has a habit of doing that recently. So how's that for a news day? Yesterday, Melissa Lantsman going to join me in the 11 o'clock hour of the program. Between 10 and 11, it's the Talkback Hour. Phone calls, opinions, 750-1310. And my question to get the conversation going this morning is this. What kind of weekend do you think it's going to be in downtown Ottawa this weekend? A weekend like the last 3 weekends? Or something else? Give that some thought and give me a call. Councillor Carol Anne Meehan, next on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
Part of the reason I got back into this is because I am creative, and I also wanted to kind of have a fun flair, 50s vibe. All of the boxes are kind of fun names, the colors are fun, the logo is fun, and it's not just the package that I want to bring joy to people's lives, it's also the feeling that they get when they receive it, to know that there's someone that thinks of them and they're missing them and showing that they care when they can't be there. The smallest of the subscription boxes is the red box, the classical box. So you would get 5 to 7 items from the variety of categories. Those do change quarterly. However, with items that are more popular, we'll bring them back as people ask for them, or you could get them as an add-on option. And then those items will be included in the Jazzy box, the same items from the first, although they'll be in a larger size, more quantity, as well as a couple extra items. And then in the largest box, the Doo-Wop Deluxe, which is our most popular, that is a comprehensive offering of all of the other 2 boxes, plus additional. So for example, if you were to get a certain item in the smallest of the boxes, that item would still be offered in the large, but in a bigger size. So you're getting everything bigger, plus an extra few items. The first thing is I look for Canadian suppliers and manufacturers. That is something I'm very proud of. I make sure that the products are safe, that they fit into the packages that we offer, obviously. They have to be the proper size and weight. I have approximately 300 items that we have so far that we can order that basically help make people's lives easier. There's snacks, there's self-care items, there's entertainment, a little bit of everything. And basically I try it and test it, and if it's duly approved, then I include it in our packages. So some of the categories that we have is we offer treats, which is of course everyone likes treats, no matter how old you are. So we have things like nuts, chocolates, different types of snacks, maybe a handmade piece of jewelry. We also include pieces of jewelry as well, occasionally. We also have our pamper items. So your pamper items would include things like your bath soaks, your specialty lotions, things like that. 2 other categories we offer are leisure. Leisure would include things such as puzzles, adult coloring books, paint by numbers, crosswords, word find, Sudoku, if that's how you say it. And we also have items for self-care and health. So masks, sanitizers, sanitizing wipes. They're all natural, non-drying, made with natural ingredients. So they're very good for everyone, especially in this time that we're dealing with.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Saying good morning to City Councillor Carol Anne Meehan. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
You are no longer a member of the Ottawa Police Services Board. Why?
Well, actually, I could have remained on the board. I surprisingly got a vote of confidence from my council colleagues last night in that dirty motion to replace the outgoing, or replace Diane Deans as the chair. I was surprised that the council colleagues went along and decided that I could remain on the job, but. I can't be part of these dirty politics. I don't want to be part of a new police services board that's being installed at the whim of a mayor who has been anything but a leader in this crisis, the worst crisis that this city has ever seen. So no, I had to tender my resignation before the end of the meeting last night, and I regret everything that happened last night. But the Ottawa Police Services Board did everything in its power to try to fix this situation and help the police, and we have been scapegoated by a mayor who is expert at dirty politics, Rob.
Okay. What is your reaction to the removal of Diane Deans as the chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board?
I think it's a mistake. Councillor Deans has done everything that we are afforded under the Ontario Police Services Act to try to solve this crisis. She has been a leader through some of the toughest times that this city has ever seen, in a time of change politics and a change when it comes to policing in Canada and in Ottawa. We can't police the way we used to. And it's ironic, actually, that we've had this move towards policing that is more police service rather than police force. That's why we brought Chief Slowly in to shepherd us through this very interesting process that we've got going. And now we just want police to go in and crack heads. That's not the answer to this. But if that's what the majority of City Council wants, then they're going to have the police board that will cheer on the police service right now. Diane has done everything in her power, and we as a board have done everything under power. And I'd just like to say, Rob, for those people who think that the Police Services Board has superpowers, that we could have directed the chief of police and the police service to go in there and forcefully remove those protesters. We don't have those powers. We are an oversight body. We are a provincial oversight body that is governed by the Solicitor General's office. So all we can do is to make sure that the police had resources. We could not tell them to go in and do their job. Even though I'm sure, all of us as being backseat quarterbacks, we would have said, go in the middle of the night and take these people out. That's not our role. We did our role, and we're paying the price for it right now because political heads have to roll, and we're the scapegoats.
Okay. What do you think of Councillor El Shantiri being named as the replacement for Diane Deans?
Well, lucky him. The police are rolling in there this morning. All the tough work has been done. The police have a plan, and it's obvious from what I'm hearing this morning that it's starting to be rolled out. So I'm sure Eli El Shantiri, he's got lots of experience with the Police Services Board. He's installed now at a very opportune time. So he'll be able to say, I'm going to lead this board going forward. The tough work has been done, Rob. So good on him and good on this board.
Carol Anne, I'm sorry. I spoke with Councillor El Shantiri yesterday, and one of his frustrations that he shared with me is that the now former chief of police, Peter Slowly, spent far too much time at meetings with the Ottawa Police Services Board, like weekend meetings that would go on for hours, and that robbed him of time that could have been spent on operational matters, dealing with the protest that has gripped Ottawa for 3 weeks. What do you think of that?
I think that's ludicrous.
Ludicrous? Okay.
That's absolutely ludicrous. This city needed to know what was happening. We were being pressured to find out. The police chief, we tried to be very conscious of the police chief's time. He had to answer questions because we were being pressured, and that is our job. What do you have a plan, Chief? What do you need, Chief? These are all things that we had to ask, and we had to do it in the spirit of transparency. So these meetings were absolutely necessary. We were cognizant of the police chief's time. So, and if we had not done that, we'd be criticized for it as well.
Okay. How confident are you right now that the current leadership, now the chief slowly is gone, there's new leadership there. How confident are you in the police leadership right now that it will be able to resolve this situation that we are in here?
Well, I think we have complete confidence in Interim Chief Bell. He's been part of the team from the get-go. And there is a plan in place. And now we have an integrated command center that is helping. It's obvious that it's been slow, but we're starting to get the resources, I believe we have the resources in there right now that can end this protest. But Rob, let's not be delusional. I am concerned that this is not going to end well. There's an awful lot of people down there who you can't reason with, and they're gunning for a fight. And I am concerned. But that's why the Police Services Board, we acted quickly to try to get the command some additional resources in the short term, and which was well within the board's rights, mind you. The Solicitor General told us that we were doing the right thing yesterday. His office told us that we were well within our rights to get additional help immediately in the short term. You know, what's interesting about this whole situation, Rob, is that facts and the truth have been sacrificed. You know, we did not go and hire a new chief, to undercut Steve Bell. No, I think ultimately Steve Bell is going to be the chief of police in this city, but we needed a short-term solution, and that's what we did, and which is well within our rights. So, and then have the mayor of the city skew the facts and leak it out to use it against us and twist it. He's morally bankrupt. Rob, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about this, but as a police board service member, I was appealing to Jim Watson. Way back at February the 2nd, I appealed to him directly. I said, Jim, please stand up and be a leader. Declare a state of emergency. Call a big news conference, because this city needs leadership. And we don't have it right now. We're rudderless. The Police Services Board, we're doing everything within our power to help the police handle this confrontation and bring it to a close. Where are you? And he said, oh, well, state of emergency, that will give us no more powers. I said, no, that's not true. You try something at least. Step forward. Be a leader. And it's not the first time I've asked Jim to be a leader. And when times get tough, he hides. But when it suits him, he'll come forward and try to take, make political points with the people who have trying their hardest. And that's exactly what he did in this situation. And Scott Moffat doing the mayor's dirty work again, I don't even have the words. Okay. You wonder why good people aren't going to run for politics anymore? It's because of this. It's because of the dirty tricks that are being played, We need leadership. And what happened last night is exactly the worst thing that could have happened. We are in a crisis, and we spent 7 hours dealing with the mayor and his petty politics.
Thank you, Carol Anne Meehan.
You're welcome.
City Councillor Carol Anne Meehan, now former member of the Ottawa Police Services Board. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, raining and 4 degrees. In Smiths Falls right now, it's 6. And here's what's making news this hour. Additional security fencing up around Parliament Hill this morning as police mass in places like Infinity Centre parking lot. No move on the demonstrators occupying Wellington Street, at least at this point. The interim police chief, Steve Bell, says the plan is in place. It is solid and devised by some of the best minds in the country. It will involve police forces from across the province, across the country, including RCMP, OPP, and SQ. What a mess at council last night. 7 hours of dealing with the mayor and his petty politics. That was a summation from Councillor Carol Anne Meehan. The meeting included a vote to oust the police board chair, Councillor Diane Deans. The mayor says she overstepped her bounds. The domino effect caught a number of police board members, including Carol Anne Meehan, who resigned her seat, along with fellow councillor Rolson King. Meehan tells the Rob Snow Show this morning she and others who were on the board have been scapegoated by the mayor, who is an expert at dirty politics. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's time for Ontario politics this week. Although there will be Ottawa's in Ontario, so that qualifies as Ontario politics, right? Lindsay Maskell is back with us, Liberal strategist, former advisor to Premier McGuinty. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Rob.
Alex Chreston, senior consultant, Crestview Strategy. Andrew Brander's on vacation. I'm on vacation? What a time to take a vacation, Andrew. My gosh. Alex, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you. Okay, can we talk about what's going on in Ottawa? You don't mind, do you? That's where the eyes of all the political junkies are on Ottawa, right?
Yeah, we watched many hours of Ottawa City Council last night. I don't think that would happen.
I just did the most extraordinary interview in all my time, 20 plus years in talk radio. Covered a lot of municipal politics in my time. I don't think I have ever had a city councillor so mad, so upset, so outraged as Carol Anne Meehan is mad, upset, and outraged at the mayor of Ottawa right now, but after everything that happened yesterday. But we can get into that. In about a half an hour from now, the Prime Minister is going to stand in the House of Commons and justify his government's use of the Emergencies Act. For the first time in Canadian history, 35 years that act has existed, never been used. What do you think he's going to say, Lindsay Maskell? What will you be listening for?
Well, I'm hoping that he will address how cautiously this is being used. A couple things to remember is that, of course, it has to be introduced. It has to be passed. It has to go through the Senate still. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of misinformation, particularly coming out of the states about civil liberties and that this, overrides our charter rights, which it does not. I firmly believe that this is a tool that they brought out that actually, with a 30-day timeline, so that's the main thing too, is that it has a very limited timeline on it to break this up and to send the message that you can't take over our capital city, that you cannot block our borders, that we do have this tool if you think this is a tactic that could work to chokehold our economy and destroy a community. We can't have people thinking that this is the new tactic. So I hope that we're going to be hearing some of that, but I'm also optimistic that as things have been moving a little bit, in terms of some vehicles moving off, that things peacefully have ended at the Windsor border. That they won't even have to pass this, bringing the act in to use it this time. So that would be the ideal situation. But again, I'm sure we're probably all in agreement that this should have been resolved weeks ago.
Okay. Alex, what do you think? The speech is, less than half an hour away now. What will you be listening for? What do you expect from the Prime Minister?
I think that the Prime Minister now will have to step up and actually explain why the Emergencies Act is needed. And I'm hoping that there's more than just the hyperbole that we've heard from him to date, about threats to democracy and the vile people who are clogging the streets. Look, I think that something has to be done. But I worry here that they're bringing out the big guns to make a show where it might not necessarily be necessary. So I'm looking here to see some kind of explanation, because this is it's kind of precedent setting. As we all know, with the War Measures Act and the October crisis, it wasn't that the War Measures Act was brought in or that the FLQ had to be cleaned up. I think no one can argue about that. But it was all of the ancillary activity that happened when the police took matters into their own hands and rounded up people who had no business being rounded up. The history isn't yet written on this, and I think we're just in Act 1.
Just in Act 1. Okay. Let's talk about the House of Commons question period yesterday. Not getting rave reviews. So let's play a little bit. Melissa Lantsman, Thornhill, Conservative Member of Parliament, and the Prime Minister. Roll tape.
These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same Prime Minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency. So, Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister lose his way? When did it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to remind the honourable members, including the Right Honourable Prime Minister, to use words that are not inflammatory in the House, and that's for both sides. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Unbecoming as a Prime Minister. It's been 48 hours that the government went from doing nothing to a national emergency. 48 hours into using the measures, 48 hours without providing Parliament with a justification. So my question is simple. When will the Prime Minister admit that he's lost control of the situation, that he's lost control of his country, that he's lost control of his caucus, and that he's lost control of his leadership?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Question of caucus and support for these blockades, the Conservative politicians need to make a choice. Are they for the blockades, or are they for communities, our economy, and regular Canadians? The member from Provencher pointed out about the emergency blockade, the illegal blockades. He has never seen such a patriotic display in Canada. There's nothing patriotic about hurting fellow Canadians. The member from Grand Prairie, Mackenzie.
That's good. That's good. Okay. All right. Okay. Melissa Lantsman is a rising star in the Conservative Party. She was a big player in the election campaign in the landslide victory for Doug Ford in Ontario. Openly gay, married to her partner, super smart, represents a riding with a large Jewish population. She's Jewish. She is the furthest thing from a Nazi sympathizer. Should the Prime Minister apologize to Melissa Lantsman? What do you think? Lindsay Maskell.
So, as you said, said, she has a long history with she ran Doug Ford's War Room. So that's a recycled question. I remember her asking Kathleen, him asking Kathleen where she lost her way. That was, that's a pretty big recycled line. But I firmly believe that we should actually have not made it about the hate acts and symbols of hate that we've seen on Parliament Hill. It's just an illegal blockade. It's an illegal protest, and you can't disturb a community like that. And that could have kept things calmer, I believe. Nobody wants to see these things. We shouldn't be seeing these hate symbols, but I don't think that that's the main story. So I feel that that was a mistake to have that be so much of the focus. But at the same time, she has also been peddling a lot of misinformation around the, empty store shelves and using fake images. So she's also putting a bit of a target on herself for some pushback. I don't think that we should be using those hate symbols and talking about them in Parliament. But I don't think that she needs an apology. He didn't say she stands with those. But some of her colleagues have, and they have to pick a lane.
All right. Okay. So that's a no on the apology then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Alex?
Yeah, look, I think that she does deserve an apology, and I think that the Prime Minister had an opportunity here to use this to show and demonstrate to Canadians that he's some leadership, that he has it within him to be serious when times get serious. But he did what we've seen him do so many times. He got carried away with hyperbole. He got carried away trying to score political points rather than be the strong, secure, steady voice that Canadians are looking for to solve the real problems. Instead, he dresses up boogeymen and tries to focus on the most extreme elements of the situation, and then tie it to the Conservative Party, but not only the Conservative Party, but to a young Jewish MP. This is what happens when the Prime Minister gets carried away with hyperbole. He says things that are just foolish, and that's what he's done.
Okay, we'll be right back. We'll talk about that Ottawa City Council meeting last night. We'll talk about why Doug Ford is one of the few premiers in the country actually supporting Justin Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act, and Doug Ford saying this week, when it comes to the pandemic, we're done with it, and it's time to move on. This is Ontario Politics This Week, and this is The Rob Snow Show, and this is City News.
So Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre has been around since 1982, and it's here to serve residents of Ward 13. So our focus is on helping to reduce poverty in this community, as well as empowering residents to find resilience within themselves. So one of the new focuses of our centre is around food programming. So you'll notice today when we go around on a little tour that we have a number of food programs here at the centre. So one being obviously our emergency food program, which is really great. So residents can come and access food when they are in need. We also have a number of food-based social enterprises here at Rideau Rockcliffe as well. So one being the Ottawa Good Food Box, another being Market Mobile. One of our new initiatives that started this year as response to COVID is called Good Food on the Move, and it's a click and collect online store, and we have 7 pickup locations throughout the city. More sort of local here for Ward 13 residents, we've also started a free produce market as well. So community members can come on Wednesdays and Fridays and be able to access additional free fruits and vegetables.
Social Harvest Ottawa is one of the social enterprises here at the Rideau Rockcliffe Community Resource Centre. We operate this great urban greenhouse, and our work is not only to grow nutritious and delicious food, but also to nourish communities with community members here in Ward 13 and beyond. The greenhouse is a year-round project. We're a team of 4 employees working here. We have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. We focus on growing microgreens from late fall to early spring, and hothouse crops in the summertime, such as tomatoes and cucumbers.
The Mission Food Truck we're in our 5th week of collaborating with them to come visit our center. And we just got in on it at the right time. They were looking for new communities to branch out to. They said, absolutely. Right now, they're funded through donations. They travel around Ottawa and just give out delicious, fresh, hot food to people as well. We have at our center the Ottawa Good Food Box, as well as the Marco Mobile. So Ottawa Good Food Box has been around for 25 years, and Marco Mobile is a little younger, started in 2014. So they both have the mission and the mandate of making fresh food more accessible and affordable in neighborhoods that lack access to a grocery store. So I think the greatest thing that we've seen as a result of the pandemic in our community is people that we maybe have never needed to access our services before, right? So a lot of people have had, layoffs. Maybe they're just not able to work because they have to stay home with their children, over the summer, that sort of thing. So we've definitely seen the need go out, particularly for our food programming, as well as some of our counseling services as well. So it's a heavy time for people emotionally.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
It's Ontario politics this week. Lindsay Maskell is with us. Liberal strategist Alex Chreston, senior consultant at Crestview Strategies. We just have some new information. Just let me bring our listeners up to date. Our parliamentary bureau chief is Cormac MacSweeney. He's right there in the protest zone right now. He reports to us that he has seen multiple busloads of police officers unloading near the so-called red zone, near Wellington Street as well. They're handing out warning notices, again, much as the same way they did yesterday, being handed out by law enforcement. And it is getting tense. This is a little bit of the sound. The police trying to hand out these warnings, and they...
Who are your supervisors? What are you guys doing? You're just people like us. Guys,
Okay, so that's some sound from... That's just a few minutes ago on Wellington Street. So we'll see what the morning begins. Again, the Prime Minister makes a speech in the House of Commons on the Emergencies Act at 10 o'clock. And then it will be open for debate, and there will be speeches in the House most of the morning, maybe the rest of the day, hard to say, on the Emergencies Act. And then at 11 o'clock, we have a news conference featuring Bill Blair, Chrystia Freeland, and Marco Mendicino, the three central cabinet ministers on the government side in this whole business. So I think that brings us up to date. That news conference at 11 o'clock. Now, who had Let's Watch the Ottawa City Council meeting on their protest bingo card? What about you, Alex?
Yeah, the thing is, so much I think people often forget about how important, their local government is, and especially in these kinds of matters, right, where this was, first and foremost at the feet of the Ottawa Police, who report to the Ottawa through the Police Services Board to the City Council, and I think it's the thing about municipal council is it's. Compared to federal or provincial politics, the sausage making is laid bare for everyone to see, and it is messy. And the few times that the general public actually turn their attention to it is always when it's at its messiest. Unfortunate to see this, kind of that it appears this sort of descent into chaos. Well, we've got a crisis on our hands in the city of Ottawa, but I wouldn't expect anything else.
Wouldn't expect anything else. Okay. All right. Lindsay?
Well,
you watch any of that, Lindsay? Did you watch?
I can't believe I'm a special form of TV watching with like curling on one screen and the
right.
And
okay.
the council on the other.
Right. And then the council meeting ends, and you can tune in for the women's gold medal hockey game.
Yes,
right?
yeah, that was my night, which sounds embarrassing, but.
Yep.
But at the same time, I have always been very interested in municipal politics. After starting to work at Queen's Park, I actually, post-teaching, I got my mother to run for council, and she was the mayor of a community that has a similar setup of its own local police force and served on the police services board. So I had a long night watching and messaging with her and how this would happen, and just some interesting insight, because just so shocked that the police services board wasn't having more meetings sooner, getting control of this, to have that kind of who's being thrown under the bus conversation 3 weeks later because of their inaction. It was pretty shocking to see, and also just I'm actually okay with council meetings being what they are, in the sense that the mayor does have a lot to reckon for, and whether it's fair, unfortunately, with not running again, people won't have their say at a ballot box. But there's a lot of blame that was laid around last night at that council.
Well, I mentioned Carol Anne Meehan, well-known broadcaster here in the Ottawa area for decades, ran for city council, won, had a rough start as a city councillor, but has found her footing down there. Mm-hmm. And she has not been a member of the so-called Jim Watson Club. So they moved to oust her yesterday, what I call the Watson Coalition. She barely survived, only to resign at the end of the meeting. But she was very, very upset with the mayor this morning when I interviewed her about half an hour ago. Listen to this.
And then have the mayor of the city skew the facts and leak it out to use it against us and twist it. He's morally bankrupt. Rob, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about this, but as a police board service member, I was appealing to Jim Watson. Way back at February the 2nd, I appealed to him directly. I said, Jim, please stand up and be a leader. Declare a state of emergency. Call a big news conference, because this city needs leadership, and we don't have it right now. We're rudderless. The police.
All right. Wow.
She's 100% right.
She's 100% right.
Yeah, we are.
Really?
We're where we are.
Used to work for Dalton McGuinty. Jim Watson was a cabinet minister in the Dalton McGuinty government. My gosh, holy cow, Lindsay Maskell. My goodness.
I don't think there are many people.
Dirty trickster, everything else. My gosh. Okay, we only have a few minutes left here, so we should turn our attention to the Ontario government. This is Ontario politics this week, after all, and. Let me ask you, Alex, why would Doug Ford be one of the few premiers to support Mr. Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act? What motivates Doug Ford in this?
Look, I think that Doug Ford has shown an ability to be both sympathetic to the cause and to the people involved, while still being true to what I think is a core part of his ideology, and that is that he supports law and order. He would always tell you that he supports the cops and he stands with the police. And I think as much as he feels for the people who are out there desperate on the street and pushed to this point, that you saw the action that they took last weekend, declaring an emergency to clear the bridge in Windsor. When law and order is broken down, he will take the steps that need to be taken. So I think that it would be a little bit of a stretch for him to call out the Prime Minister for doing a similar thing.
Okay. Lindsay?
Well, I think it's a convenience for Doug Ford with the fact that after the OPP also did not come into Ottawa and fix the situation, and that the act that he has not acted to take care of what's been happening in Ottawa, it's to his benefit if Justin does. There's, it's even if this ends today, this doesn't end well for anybody in leadership, right? This has not been a good moment for anybody in political leadership. And so if he thinks that there is no win for if this gets broken up today with Justin Trudeau bringing in the Emergencies Act. So I think it just allows him to sort of make it seem like it was actually just the federal responsibility all along, even though I believe the province and the municipal government should have stopped this on day one.
Okay. What do you think about Doug Ford this week said, we're done with it, talking about COVID, and there are more restrictions being relaxed today, capacity limits. We're done with it, and it's time to move on. Alex, what do you think of that?
I think that's just echoing the sentiment of everybody in the country right now. Whether I think that the sort of Omicron wave and the resulting lockdown was sort of the last straw for a lot of people. It was the point where it said, okay, this is the last time we're going to do this. So many people are vaccinated. So many people have had COVID. It seems as though this new variant is harder to control the spread, but it's not as dangerous to human life. So as a species, we were not meant to live this way. And Doug Ford is just echoing that exact sentiment. It'd be hard to imagine a situation where all of a sudden we're bringing back in all of these measures to limit people's ability to move around and keep people in their homes. After 2 years of this, everyone is really tired.
Okay, Lindsay?
It's fair that everybody is tired and everybody is done with it, and that we should be lifting the measures. The issue is it's an endemic, and we're allowed to lift the measures for those that have been vaccinated. And for those that are unvaccinated, this can continue to be a pandemic for those people. I think it's also a bit concerning about the lines he was parroting back that kind of diminish the success that the vaccines have given us, of helping us through this wave that didn't shut down our hospital system, and that is actually the success that means that we can lift the measures, that Ontarians did the right thing and got their shot. And it was a bit of a slap in the face to the heavy lifting of living through the lockdowns and getting vaccinated and doing what they did through this pandemic, to just say, none of that matters. You're getting to have things open up. You're getting all of your mobility back because you got vaccinated. And he undermined that message this week. But no one's disagreeing that we should be getting back to our normal lives if you're vaccinated. So I think he missed the mark on that message and undermined the leadership he did actually have during the pandemic, particularly on vaccines.
Okay. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye. Lindsay Maskell has her own firm, Liberal Strategist, and Alex Chreston of Crestview Strategies. Talkback hour, 750-1310. It's been packed. You'll want to call early if you want to get on the air. 750-1310, Talkback hour, next after the news on City News.
news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 4 degrees. It's 6 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It's an increased police presence in Ottawa's downtown this morning. OPP and Ottawa police cruisers and trucks that have apparently been pressed into police service. Officers are handing out another flyer to protesters, warning them about what is going to happen should they remain at the protest site. Parliament Hill reporter Cormac MacSweeney says some of the protesters seem to be getting a bit aggressive. There is also increased fencing around Parliament Hill as well. That was put up this morning. We get the latest now from our Parliament Hill reporter Cormac MacSweeney.
Protesters starting to get a bit aggressive here as police walk through the crowd, handing out what appears to be the final notice before a possible police intervention. They followed police screaming at them, basically verbally assaulting them as they were trying to walk through the area here right in front of Parliament Hill. Despite these notices that started yesterday, it appears people are staying put. They're digging in their heels. Beverly tells me she won't leave and she's willing to get arrested.
Because of the reason we're here is for freedom, right? And we can't give in. We can't give in to this tyranny.
There is definitely a heavy police presence on the ground. I've seen busloads of officers, dozens and dozens of Ottawa Police, OPP and RCMP cruisers throughout the area. Barricades have been set up on the front gates of Parliament Hill to prevent anyone from trying to make their way to the lawn of Parliament Hill. There are many here who actually just don't really seem worried. They're still walking around despite some of the aggression we saw earlier. But we did see some, tensions from organizers of this protest. Pat King talking about a heavy police presence on a live stream earlier, as well as Tamara Leach, who says she fully expects to be arrested. Right now, things have calmed a little bit, but it could be the calm before the storm. Cormac MacSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 10:03. What a wild city council meeting last night. Details of an almost complete rejig of the police board coming up. But first, your forecast. Here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Winter storm warning in effect for up to 30 centimeters of snow by early Friday. We've got special weather statements for the rain and the messy mix possible for the afternoon. Already reached our high for the day for the afternoon, 0, -14 for the low. Blowing snow with the north wind. Should end that snow around 6 tomorrow morning, then sun and cloud and a cold high just -11. For today, already reached our high for the day for the afternoon, 0.
And right now, 4 degrees in Ottawa, 6 degrees in Smiths Falls. Ottawa councillor and former police board member Carol Anne Meehan did not hold back on the Rob Snow show this morning. A 7-hour council meeting yesterday included the ouster of the police board chair. That's Diane Deans.
Councillor Deans has done everything that we are afforded under the Ontario Police Services Act to try to solve this crisis. She has been a leader through some of the toughest times that this city has ever seen.
Now, Carol Anne Meehan was voted to stay on that police board, but she chose to step down, telling Rob Snow she just couldn't stay.
We need leadership, and what happened last night is exactly the worst thing that could have happened. We are in a crisis, and we spent 7 hours dealing with the mayor and his petty politics.
Meehan also criticized Councillor Scott Moffat, who introduced the motion to replace Diane Deans with Eli L. Shantiri at Police Board. Meehan says he again did the dirty work for the mayor. Canadian women's Olympic hockey team beat the United States 3-2 and capture gold. Men's curling team will play for a bronze. They lost a semifinal to Sweden. Women curlers finished the round robin with a win, but did miss the playoff round. Another silver for Canada today as well. That was Marielle Thompson in women's ski cross, a drama-filled final there. And Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva fell twice during the long program. She wound up 4th. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
What kind of weekend do you think it will be in Ottawa? Do you think this will be a weekend like the last 3 weekends? Or is all of this about to end? And if it is about to end, how do you feel about that? 750-1310. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. In Perth, we go first. Ian. Good morning, Ian. You're on the City News.
Rob.
Yeah. What kind of weekend do you think it will be in Ottawa this weekend?
I think it's probably going to be a muted version of what we've had the last 3 weekends in a row now.
Okay.
I think there's going to be more fear factor, definitely, because of the increased police presence. I was wondering if you could do me a favor next time you have a health official on.
It depends on what kind of favor you ask. I mean,
I was wondering if you could, there's something that hasn't made sense to me.
right.
So we've had these last 3 weekends where we've had what would you say, 10,000 people all masked downtown?
yeah, I mean, they estimate, between 10,000 people, depending on the weekend, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So knowing that and knowing what we know about COVID, how it's like spreading and whatnot, why have we not seen an increase in hospital cases?
Yeah, I can't answer that, but I'll ask that to a health official. Yeah, sure. Fair question. Is this a massive super spreader event? I don't know. Dave is in the West End. Dave.
Hi, Rob.
Dave.
Hi.
What kind of weekend do you think it's going to be in Ottawa?
I have no idea.
No idea?
I have no idea because it could get messy.
Yeah.
And if the guy, we have no leadership. I'd like to see the Conservatives get up and walk out of Parliament.
Okay.
Just get up and walk out because Trudeau, I don't know who he's working for, but he's not working for Canadians, that's for sure.
Okay. All right.
It's,
you're worried about it getting messy, though, by the sounds of it, right?
Yes,
yeah.
And I would love to be down there.
Really?
Every night I get 5 and 6 phone calls from people that are down there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a party apparently.
Well, there are parts of it that are a party, but
and a lot of if you live down there and you walked out on the street, then you'd be part of the party. So I don't understand why some of these people are saying they're being harassed.
Well, yeah.
Well, they're being harassed by people that are plants anyway.
They're plants. Okay.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I think you and I depart on that point, Dave. Terry in Merrickville. Terry.
Yeah.
Hi, Terry. What kind of weekend do you think it's going to be, Terry?
Well, I think it could be messy, and I think one of the problems is that they didn't move on quelling this whole thing fast enough. I think if they had moved they've had 3 weeks there, so they've set up and they've got everything, comfortable. They're set in for the long term. But if the government had moved a little bit faster, and it's good to have a protest, and it's all very fair. But if the different levels of the government had moved a little bit faster and got them out there, they wouldn't have been able to set up and get so entrenched.
Okay. And I wouldn't be asking you about a fourth weekend.
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Terry. Thank you. I'm just going to tell you, folks, I want to fit in as many calls as I can here early in the hour because the Prime Minister is going to make a speech in the House of Commons and justify his government's use of the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act has never been in effect in Canada, ever, in the 35 years of its existence. So that is, it's a historic moment for the country. And I want to bring it to you when the Prime Minister begins. And David's watching it. David will give me the heads up. But until then, we'll take some calls. They're going through some routine matters in the House, and then we expect to hear from the Prime Minister. Mark.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Mark.
Well, first of all, I wonder...
What kind of weekend do you think it's going to be, Mark?
Even before the weekend, how heavy is this snowfall going to be? And could it block the vehicles in place if it gets too heavy and they can't move anyway? And then the freezing rain. So that's the first factor.
Weather could be a factor, right?
Well, very much so.
Yeah.
Literally, if it's heavy enough that they won't be able to move, even if the police bring in the tow trucks.
Yeah, you can still arrest people in a snowstorm, though. They might not be able to move the trucks, but...
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
But you see, I have to wonder, the Children's Aid Society issued that warning.
Yesterday.
But do they really have the infrastructure in place to care for these children? That many children...
I think that's why they issued the warning. It was basically pleading with people to make alternate arrangements.
And if such arrangements aren't made, then what?
But it was just the very idea that it said because of a police action, which sort of was like, oh, there's going to be a police action.
If it were the case that the Ambassador Bridge was still being blocked, then perhaps the Emergency Measures Act would be justified, but not for this.
Okay.
Not at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Yep. Good point he makes there. Good point he makes. They are still going through routine proceedings in the House of Commons. The Prime Minister expected to speak within the hour. Daryl.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Daryl. What kind of weekend do you think it's going to be?
I've heard a lot of radical talk, and I think there's going to be some violence when the police go to move them out.
Oh, really? Okay.
I do.
All right.
I do.
If it ends, let's say it ends. Our reporter, Cormac MacSweeney, is down there. Our parliamentary bureau chief is down there. Busloads of police officers unloading onto Wellington Street right now. A police presence the likes of which we have not seen over the last 21 days. So if this is the conclusion of it, how do you feel about that?
Well, I hope it is. And,
people
who are sympathetic with these truck drivers have to understand one thing. What started it all? Where does it go back to? And they need to read the manifesto of Unity Canada.
Okay.
Because that's what's really behind it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yep. There are a couple of phone lines available there at 750-1310, 750-1310. Armand.
Good morning.
Hi, Armand. What kind of weekend do you think it will be in Ottawa?
Well, I'm just hoping the weekend is over. This stuff is all over now. Enough is enough. Yes, everybody's screwed up everywhere. Nobody wants to admit wrong. They're all right in their words. So, to me, let's get this over with now. Our city is in shambles. Our mayor is, I don't know where he is, out to lunch somewhere, and everybody else, but I think it's got to be over with now. It's done.
All right.
This holding things hostage is not working. That's not the way to do it. Don't do it.
Okay. Thank you, Armand. We're going to stop here because we are awaiting the speech from the Prime Minister, so we'll break a little bit early. When we come back, if the Prime Minister has not started, I will take your calls at 750-1310. Rob Snow Show, City News.
We just took over this business about a few weeks prior to the pandemic, but we've been loving the community, the people, very friendly, but it's been very difficult starting up a new business, just the time that we did, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere. We did take a broken business, which doesn't help us, but we thought we believe in what we do. We're very passionate about food, and we just really wanted to share the Iraqi culture through our food. All our recipes are homemade, so this is very unique. Usually you hear restaurants, shops, it's all frozen food or prepared food, so nothing here is prepared, everything is homemade. We get our meat and produce from a local farm, so supporting local is the way to go. We are supporting all the way. And our meat are actually marinated the day of, so it's as fresh as can be. Quality ingredients and everything is made from scratch. I get a lot of people when they come in, they say it tastes like Middle Eastern, like back home. So for you to have been to Iraq and had the food there, you can really compare and see the similarity. We do like to focus on healthy. So our recipes, not only the homemade, again, everything is from scratch, but we have from combos and to small sandwiches. One of our favorites and very popular is the chicken salad and the beef salad. So now you're getting all the protein and all these amazing ingredients that we all need. During this time, I find a lot of people are sitting at home and not enough movement. So to come here and get something healthy other than go elsewhere and just put, what's not so good for our bodies, makes a huge difference. So we have shawarma sandwiches, combos. I mean, if you're looking for a meal to feed your family, I would highly recommend the family platter. It comes literally with everything, with potatoes, with rice, with chicken, with beef, and we don't charge extra for mix. I know a lot of places do. Here we just add everything to your platter. And lots of healthy choices for sure. We're very passionate about food, and for our small family business, it's been good. Like I said, it's a little struggle, but we are not a chained restaurant.
Back on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Let's go to the House of Commons. Proceedings in the House of Commons.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be sharing my time with the Minister of Public Safety. On Monday, as we entered the third week of illegal blockades and occupations, the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act. We did it to protect families and small businesses, to protect jobs and the economy. We did it because the situation could not be dealt with under any other law in Canada. Mr. Speaker, we did it because that's what responsible leadership requires us to do. For the good of all Canadians, the illegal blockades and occupations have to stop, and the borders have to remain open. We've made progress since Monday. On Tuesday, the border was reopened in southern Alberta after the Coutts blockade was dismantled. The RCMP arrested a small group of people within the larger blockade and seized firearms, ammunition, and body armor. It is believed that this group was willing to use force against police officers. On Wednesday, the blockade in Emerson, Manitoba, had been cleared without arrests or charges. Traffic and trade at this border crossing have now resumed. In Windsor, Mayor Dilkens said law enforcement was able to successfully intercept a new convoy suspected of heading to the Ambassador Bridge. And here in Ottawa, law enforcement now has more tools and resources in order to give the people of this city their jobs, neighborhoods, and freedoms back.
In Windsor, Coutts, and Emerson, illegal blockades have been cleared, and traffic and trade at the border crossings have now resumed or are in the process of doing so. And I would like to thank the police forces for their work, including the RCMP members on the ground, for the good of the economy, families, and workers. It is high time that these illegal and dangerous activities stop, including here in Ottawa. Mr. Speaker, invoking the Emergencies Act is not something that we do lightly. It's not the first option, or even the second or the third. It is a last resort. When I consulted the premiers of the provinces and territories on Monday, I was very clear. By blocking supply chains, these illegal blockades are doing considerable harm to our economy and to all Canadians.
Consistent with the requirements of the Emergencies Act, that the views of the premiers of all provinces and territories be carefully considered, and that is what we did. And the consultation and collaboration with the premiers will continue until the situation is resolved. Like I said on Monday, the scope of the Emergencies Act is time-limited and targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate. It strengthens and supports law enforcement agencies so they have more tools to restore order and protect critical infrastructure. These illegal blockades are being heavily supported by individuals in the United States and from elsewhere around the world. We see that roughly half of the funding that is flowing to the barricaders here is coming from the United States. The goal of all measures, including financial measures in the Emergencies Act, is to deal with the current threat only and to get the situation fully under control. Mr. Speaker, I want to reassure Canadians that when the Emergencies Act is invoked, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms continues to protect their individual rights. We're not using the Emergencies Act to call in the military. We're not limiting people's freedom of expression. We're not limiting freedom of peaceful assembly. We're not preventing people from exercising their right to protest legally. We are, in fact, reinforcing the principles, values, and institutions that keep all Canadians free. The blockades and occupations are illegal. They're a threat to our economy and relationship with trading partners. They're a threat to supply chains and the availability of essential goods like food and medicine. And they're a threat to public safety.
The Emergencies Act will be time-limited and targeted to address threats from illegal occupations and blockades only. The measures are reasonable and proportional. And I want to make it clear for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, when the Emergencies Act is invoked, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms continues to protect individual rights. We do not use the Emergencies Act to deploy the military. We do not suspend fundamental rights. We don't restrict freedom of expression or the right to peaceful protest. What we want is to keep Canadians safe, protect workers' jobs, and restore confidence in our institutions.
We understand that everyone is tired of this pandemic. We understand that Canadians are frustrated with COVID. Some protesters came to Ottawa to express their frustration and fatigue with public health measures, and that's their right. Like I said, it's a right that we'll defend in this free and democratic country. But illegal blockades and occupations are not peaceful protests. They have to stop.
We are all looking forward to the end of the pandemic. Public health measures are constantly being reevaluated, and we will continue to modify them based on science and the situation, and we will continue to encourage vaccination.
This week, based on advice from public health experts, Health Minister Duclos announced that we'll soon start easing border measures for travelers. Our government, the health minister.
If I can interrupt the Prime Minister for a second, we need to make sure we're not using proper names in here. So we want to stick to the riding names. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
This week, based on advice from public health experts, the Health Minister announced that we'll soon start easing border measures for travelers. Our government will continue to follow the best scientific advice to keep Canadians safe and support healthcare workers. People are making sacrifices and have been for 2 years. It's never time to hurt our communities or our fellow Canadians with illegal blockades, but especially not now that we're reopening and beginning to get back to the things we love. That's why, Mr. Speaker, it is so important for us to be having this debate today and in the days to come, and for Parliament to play its role in this process. Today, I ask all members of this House to take action against illegal blockades that are harmful to Canadians. I ask all members of this House to stand up for families and workers to stand up for jobs and our economy, and to stand up for the freedom of Canadians and for public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister Trudeau, with his government's justification for the use, first time ever in Canadian history, the use of the Emergencies Act, which has been around for almost 35 years. And so, the next up, there will be some debate. In fact, here is Dane Lloyd. He is a Conservative Member of Parliament. Let's listen to a little bit of this rebuttal.
Last week at Public Safety Committee, Deputy Director of Intelligence for FinTrack, Barry McKillop, stated that there is no evidence that this funding in Ottawa is tied to ideologically motivated extremism. Under further questioning, he stated that there has been no spike in suspicious transactions. Under what basis is this government freezing the bank accounts of Canadians in violation of Section 8 of the Charter against unreasonable search and seizure?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I think it is going to be extremely important that in this House over the coming days there will be important and robust debate on many such issues. But I can highlight once again, Mr. Speaker, that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms continues to apply. The Emergencies Act is subject to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the measures that we've brought forward.
The debate is underway. I think the government's goal is to get this done either today or tomorrow at the latest, because the House is not supposed to sit next week, and this is supposed to be passed within 7 sitting days. So we will see the debate underway, but that's the Prime Minister's speech. I wanted to bring that to you, these historic times with the use of the Emergencies Act. We're halfway through the talkback hour, and we will get back to our phone calls right after the news. 750-1310, one free line available. It's yours. All you have to do is call, and we'll put you on. The Rob Snow Show, City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 4 degrees. It's 5 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. The beginning of the end to the protest. That seems to be the case. Dozens of police swarming into the downtown area this morning. OPP, RCMP, and city police cruisers, as well as trucks that have apparently been pressed into police service. New temporary fencing is also up around Parliament Hill this morning. Now, CityNews Parliament Hill reporter Cormac MacSweeney will have the very latest for you from Parliament Hill coming up at 11 o'clock. Former police board member Carol Anne Meehan not pulling any punches after a lengthy emergency council meeting yesterday. While she was elected to stay on the police board, the chair, Diane Deans, was voted out. Meehan decided she couldn't stay either, so she resigned, calling it dirty politics. Chris Curries will have the latest on this story coming up at 11 o'clock as well. 61 fewer people in Ontario hospitals today with COVID-19. The health minister reporting 1,342 cases in hospital. There are also 356 people still in the ICU, but that is 8 fewer than yesterday. City News time at 10:31. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
The Emergencies Act and the debate is happening in the House of Commons right now. This is the Public Safety Minister, Marco Mendicino.
For the informed debate which we're about to have. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank Canadians because I know that this has been a very difficult time, a period of great frustration,
Well, that happens
anxiety, and uncertainty.
in the House. There is an increased police presence in the protest zone, and I am asking here on the Talkback Hour to just get the conversation going. 750-1310 is our call-in line. What kind of weekend do you think it will be in Ottawa? Adam, thank you for waiting, Adam.
Yeah. Hey, Rob. Long time. First time. I don't know if I said that right.
Thank you.
Thanks
That's
for having
fine.
me. So I had a bunch of things to say prior to Trudeau going on, and it just gets a little frustrating listening to him right now. Hopefully the weekend just kind of plays itself out. Like, it has been 3 weeks. It's been relatively peaceful. So I'm an optimist. I'm hoping that things stay peaceful. You know, everyone's kind of tired of it, and it's good. But I'm not against it. Like, I'm not against what the truckers have been doing. It seems to have been relatively peaceful. They're just kind of like big trucks sitting in the way saying, listen, we do have an issue with things.
Sure.
I'm a father of 5, so blended family, but nonetheless, 5 children, all under the age of 20. So this pandemic has really stretched us thin when it's come to just day-to-day life, month-to-month planning, and frankly, you know, I'm also almost 40 years old, so I'm going to be paying the repercussions of this pandemic for the next 25 years of my life. Essentially, taxes are going to go up. It's going to hit our family hard. Everything's gone up. Food has increased 25%. Gas has skyrocketed, 30%? We live in Ottawa. We have to drive. I have a few issues, and if I've got 15 more seconds, I'll just touch upon everything. So in regards to the weekend, I'm optimistic. I think it's just going to whittle away. It's kind of what we do in Canada. You know, despite anybody's view on life here, we all are moderates. Which kind of brings me to my next point was, and I'll just go really quick, O'Toole. I'm really sad that he got voted out. It makes no sense. He got voted out because he had a moderate view, but he received the most amount of votes that the Conservative Party has in a long time. And he was the closest thing that we had to getting rid of Trudeau. Not that the Liberal Party is bad. And, you know, I just feel like Trudeau he's just way too cavalier. It's ironic for somebody who's supposed to be, you know, a liberal who I voted for my whole life. My favorite politicians were Chrétien and Clinton. I supported Dion. I supported Ignatieff. And actually, I even supported Harper because he was a strong leader. It's sad to see that slowly actually resigned, I have a feeling he was taking it from all ends. You've commented on this, and you had a professor on the other day. The jurisdictional lines in Ottawa are crazy with the RCMP, the OPP, the Ottawa Police, and not to mention, like, the parliamentary, like, they have their own security force.
That's right.
Not to mention, we do have CSIS, and we also have military police. So the poor guy got stuck, and it wasn't his fault, and I do appreciate his moderate approach to this protest.
All right.
Diane Deans.
Okay. All right. All right. You got to wrap it up here, Adam. We got to wrap it up. Okay. Diane Deans. What about Diane Deans?
You know what? She laid everybody out. She's just concerned about her political stature right now, and when she talks about it, it's crazy. Trudeau's got to stop playing the race card. So I think, you know what? The lockdowns have to stop. The masks have got to go.
Okay.
I don't support any
Adam.
type of violence, but
Adam.
the truckers seem to be moving it along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Bye. Bye. Okay. And about the Super Bowl, Jim in Canada.
Hi, Rob.
Hey, Jim. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
I think it's going to be the same as last weekend. And let's clean it up today and tomorrow.
Okay.
Get rid of them before the weekend.
Okay.
For 2 years, everybody's had to work around this COVID. I don't understand why the truckers that can't cross into the United States couldn't have picked up loads from drivers that could pick up their load.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm right here, Jim. Just listening. Yep.
Yeah, and then deliver the load. They don't have to cross the border. They were never out of work. And then when the mandates lift, they're back to normal.
Okay. All right, Jim. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yep. Bye. Okay. Helen in Westboro. Helen.
Good morning.
What do you think this weekend's going to be like?
Oh, it's scary. It's scary. I hope it'll be fine. It'll be fine, but I'm very nervous. And I'm really, really upset with our Prime Minister Trudeau.
Okay.
He had no reason to put in that mandate in January, 2 months ago, not a month ago, when this is ending. That provoked.
Yeah, I think it was a month ago today. I think that came into effect.
You're right.
Yeah.
That provoked all of this, and then he hid. I have no use for that man at all, and I would hope, but I guess the Liberals can't do this, those that are in the provinces that are supporting the mandate, I would hope that those Liberals would vote against the Emergencies Act.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens.
Jim Watson?
Yes, what about him? Yeah.
He's smarmy,
Oh,
Jim
really?
Weasel is his name, and we've got Prime Minister Trudeau.
Wow. Okay, Helen. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yep. Ruth. No. Yes. Yeah, Ruth. Yeah, Ruth in Ottawa. No, not Ruth. Matt in Ottawa.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
It goes, sir. What do you think this weekend's going to be like?
You know what? It's going to be par for the course. These guys are doing nothing but scare tactics here. The Emergency Measures Act, first of all, enacting in a G7 country, bringing out such extreme measures, you look like a joke on the world stage. We've got a guy that's sitting there calling his own people racist and misogynistic. It's coming from a guy that paid off a family of a 17-year-old girl after sexually assaulting her, has been in blackface more times than he can count. Psychology is a really funny thing where usually you project the feelings of yourself onto others when you call people these names. So, he's flailing. He looks like an absolute joke on the world stage.
Yep.
You look outside of the Canadian mainstream media and you see the real reports. Like Fox News is just showing what's going on and how, the government's scrambling. At the end of the day, these people have been nothing but peaceful. So if they're going to come in with their jack boots and they're going to try to, they've commissioned an LRAD and stuff like that.
An LRAD?
It's not going to look good for them.
What's an LRAD? What's that?
They use them in riots. It's a focused sound beam. It's a way of clearing crowds.
Oh.
So they want to come in strong-armed against bouncy castles and hot tubs. You think you got a lot of people downtown?
Well, I
now?
mean, it's it's not just bouncy castles and hot tubs, right? Everybody.
Rob, I've been down there almost every day. I know people that are in the convoy. Okay,
right. Yeah.
These people are the shirt off your back, salt of the earth people.
I'm sure there are lots of those people. I'm sure there are lots of those people.
And it's funny because at the same time you hear Justin Trudeau saying, "Oh, we need to reinstate the freedoms of people and looking out for small businesses." But these are the same people that have made people.
But
have
what
to
about the
choose
stories of bullying and intimidation and harassment, which there are many?
You know what,
now,
Bob? Myself, when I was down there, I ran into what people are calling paid agitators.
Who's paying them? Who do you think is paying them? Who's paying them?
Who knows? Every protester, you get these people that go down there to stir up shit.
Go watch your language there, Matt. You got to watch your language.
I apologize for that.
All right.
Anyways, I was leaving.
Like you say, paid agitators, but you say paid agitator. Who's paying the truckers to be here?
The Canadians.
You've been here 3 weeks, right?
You've
been here 3 weeks. Been here 3 weeks.
Yeah,
It's expensive to stay in Ottawa and do nothing for 3 weeks. Right?
Funding for these people. These people have done more for the homeless. I got a buddy down there that they unintentionally ended up being a depot on Wellington, and they were donating so much stuff to the St. Vincent de Paul, the Salvation Army, and Goodwill that they literally said you have to stop bringing us donations.
So when I say, Matt, look, Matt, I understand your point of view. I really do. Okay, when you say status quo, they're not going anywhere. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Like, is this going to come to blows, do you think?
No. These people will not engage the police.
They will not engage the police. Okay.
Watch what happens.
All right. Thank you.
These people aren't going to do anything.
What do you mean, watch what happens? What do you mean, watch what happens? What do you mean?
You're going to have a revolt from the Canadian people when you unleash force on peaceful protesters. This is all against the Canadian Charter. Okay, one of the funny things, it came out of Nuremberg was the 10 codes, right?
Nuremberg, buzz off with your Nuremberg nonsense. Pat.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, Pat. What do you think this weekend's going to be like?
Well, I don't know. Like I was saying to the other guy there that answered the phone, it depends on who's listening and how ruffled everybody gets.
Right.
Because they have a lot of supporters that have left the city for now. But they come back on weekends because they have to work during the week.
Yeah, but I think, obviously, gosh darn, at this point, part of the plan has to be preventing people from getting into the core.
As in the beginning, that if that had been done in the beginning, this wouldn't be going on right now, too, right?
Obviously, yeah.
But I'm kind of on the fence of what's going to go on this weekend. It'll all depend on what happens today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I do got one big question. Everybody's on Trudeau, and I'm not backing him in any way, shape, or form. I'm not backing anybody in Parliament. But everybody's hitting on Trudeau about not listening to the people and stuff. What party that represents us in Canada actually listens to the people?
Okay.
That's the biggest problem I see in government. They get into office like, we use Ford. Buck a beer. Yeah, everybody voted for him. Does he represent everybody in Canada or in Ontario? The same thing goes for Justin and for the BCs and the NDPs.
Well, I mean, speaking of Doug Ford, I mean, I understand that. Speaking of Doug Ford, I mean, Doug Ford was nowhere for 2 weeks. Doug Ford only started caring about Ottawa when trade started to be disrupted on the Ambassador Bridge, and then all of a sudden, Ottawa was kind of, and I better mention Ottawa too. The big thing that we heard from Doug Ford before anything started happening on the Ambassador Bridge was you'll save $120 on your license plate sticker.
And why did that all of a sudden come around? It's because of the rich people that run this province and run this country. They get the say. But the people that live in this country don't get listened to. Call your municipality, call your premier, or call your prime minister. None of them listen to the people of this country that elect them into office every day.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
That's the problem.
All right, Pat. Yep, you're no argument from me on that. We got time for one more in Ottawa South. Robert.
Hello.
Hi, Robert. What do you think the weekend is going to be like?
I think it's going to be very scaled down. The weather is obviously going to be a factor. I don't think there's going to be any violence at all. I'm going to admit that I've watched some of the streams from some of the heads of the protesters, and in no instance or case have they ever condoned going against the police. If they're going to get arrested, they're going to get arrested peacefully, and that's what they're saying. They're not. Look at the other protests in Coots. What happened at the end of that? The protesters, they sang "O Canada" and they hugged it out with the police officers that broke up the protest. I just don't see it. I don't see it getting violent. I really hope it doesn't, but that's what I see happening.
All right, Robert. Thank you for your call. 2 phone lines available there for you. 750-1310. Final quarter here of the Rob Snow Show on this Thursday morning. This is City News.
Here at the Thirsty Maiden, we offer a variety of products. So everything from breakfast items, so it's breakfast sandwiches and scones, which have become a staple item here at the cafe. We have an assortment of pastries and cakes and desserts. So we're really big on our dessert bar, which a lot of people come here for. And of course, our delicious coffee beverages. So we do offer not your typical lattes, things like a chocolate banana coconut latte, cinnamon coconut, which is my favorite, and our take on even a pumpkin spice, which we add nutmeg and a dash of cayenne in just to give it a bit of a kick. When you start a business, you don't factor in all the things that could go wrong. You think anything that goes wrong, any failure, it's got to be something on your shoulders. You didn't market right, you're carrying the wrong products, you didn't price your items correctly, all the things, right? But when this pandemic began, things going through my brain were I didn't factor in a pandemic. And we were just starting to grow. We were about to blow up, and I think I spent 2 days crying. And then I shut my business down for, I think, a period of 2 or 3 days. And just being at home during that time, I realized this is not me. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a hard worker. I don't give up, and I'm a go-getter. And I started to think, well, I should probably just start clearing out my freezers and posting and seeing who wants to buy what. And that was sort of how I built my momentum back up. I realized that there's still a large number of people that wanted to support us and were looking for the items that I had to provide. So we started there. Then I reopened literally not even 3 or 4 days after I'd closed my doors, and then started doing curbside pickups and deliveries. Started doing the deliveries myself, free deliveries to the local community, going as far as Bell's Corners and Carp as well. And that's why we're still here. This community has really kept us going a year into the pandemic. We've had a changeover of staff a couple times now, and situations change, and when you can't offer hours and hours for your employees, you don't blame them when they have to go elsewhere. So I think that's also been one of the challenges is recruiting, training, and then they leave, and then bringing in more people and recruiting. And anybody in this industry will tell you that that's something we deal with on a regular basis, whether or not COVID's in the mix or not. But more so now, because every time there's a lockdown, there's a risk of, will we make it through? And then you lay off more staff. And again, their situations and their circumstances change.
To talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
In the House of Commons right now, the interim leader of the Conservative Party is speaking, Candice Bergen, on why her party, the official opposition, will not support the Emergencies Act.
Have caused disruptions for many Canadians, especially local businesses and residents of Ottawa. As I have said, Conservatives are the party of law and order. We believe the trucks should move or be moved. The temperature across the country. The Prime Minister clearly wants to raise it. Let's be very clear how this all started. The Prime Minister decided to impose a vaccine mandate on truckers with no scientific evidence that it was the right thing to do. Many Canadians opposed it, but he went ahead anyway. Truckers and millions of Canadians felt they had no recourse with this Prime Minister, and who can blame them? After all, this was the Prime Minister who called them racist and misogynist. He said their views were unacceptable, that they were on the fringe. And when truckers and their supporters arrived in Ottawa, what did the Prime Minister do first? He hid for a week, and then he continued his insults, calling them and anyone who supported them or even talked with them things like Nazi supporters. We saw that name-calling and unfair and mean-spirited characterization happen just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, by the Prime Minister of Canada in this House. That That is all he has done to rectify the problem. Call names and insult. Mr. Speaker, many of the people that are protesting, many of the people who are upset are our neighbours. They are our constituents. They are Canadians. And they want to be heard and given even just a little respect by their Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister has decided that because he disagrees with them, doesn't like their opinions, he won't hear them. At every turn, the Prime Minister has stigmatized, wedged, divided, and traumatized Canadians. And now, without even a single meeting with a trucker, without talking through one of their concerns, without apologizing for his insults and listening to what people have to say, without using any other tool at his disposal, he has used this overreach, this Emergencies Act, and it's wrong. The Prime Minister's leadership in this situation has frankly been abysmal. He said this week, and I quote, "Invoking the Emergencies Act is never the first thing a government should do, or even the second. The act has to be used sparingly and as a last resort." But his actions have shown the opposite approach. The so-called measure of last resort has come before taking any action to address the frustrations at the root of the protest. How did the Prime Minister go directly from ignoring the truckers to turning to the Emergencies Act? Why has the government jumped straight to this without doing anything to lower the temperature first? Conservatives put forward a reasonable approach that could help bring the temperature down and address the concerns. We asked the government to commit publicly to a specific plan and timeline to roll back federal mandates and restrictions. But the Liberals and NDP refused to support our plan, and instead the Prime Minister reached for more power. This comes as provincial governments are announcing plans to end COVID-19 restrictions. The Prime Minister is an exception to this trend, and he refuses to come forward with a plan. Even the provinces are unhappy with the Prime Minister for doing this. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Nova Scotia, they're all opposed to the use of the Emergencies Act. This is not a good look for the Prime Minister. We all want the trucks here in Ottawa to move. We want a peaceful and quick end to the trucks blocking the streets in Ottawa. Our message to those protesting is still this: Conservatives have heard you. We will keep standing up for you. But it's time to move the trucks. At the same time, no government should resort to the kind of extreme measures that we're seeing. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister has a track record of serious disregard for the law, and that raises a lot of red flags. This is the Prime Minister who interfered with an ongoing criminal trial in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. This is a Prime Minister who took the Speaker to court instead of fulfilling his legal obligation to provide documents to this Parliament. On two separate occasions, this is the Prime Minister who has been found guilty by the Ethics Commissioner. This Prime Minister admitted his basic admiration for basic dictatorships. Red flag after red flag after red flag. He may not like it, Mr. Speaker, but in Canada, civil liberties must be defended at every turn. Section 2 guarantees our freedom of association and assembly. Section 7 guarantees our right to life, liberty, and security of the person. Section 8 guarantees our protection against unreasonable search and seizure. Canadians can't be expected to simply take this Prime Minister at his word. His plans are not consistent with fundamental freedoms. The government should not have the power to close the bank accounts of Canadians on a whim. The Prime Minister is doing this to save his own political skin, but Mr. Speaker, this is not a game. It comes at the cost to Canadians' rights and freedoms. Speaker, Parliament should not allow the Prime Minister to avoid responsibility in this way. I urge all members of this House, proceed with extreme caution. Now is the time to stand up for your constituents, to show real leadership, to help heal our divisions, to listen to those we disagree with, to not shut them down, to not tell them that they are irrelevant, to not speak insults to them. That is the job of each one of us as members of Parliament. No matter who we represent, we have to represent them with integrity, with hope, with honor. And what the Prime Minister is doing, Mr. Speaker, he has for the last 2 years disregarded these Canadians. Canadians, called them names and insulted them. It is time to show leadership for every one of us and say no to this Emergencies Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The interim leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Candace Bergen. Let's take a few calls. We only have about 4 minutes left. I apologize. Denny in Ottawa. Denny.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
It goes, sir. What do you think about the weekend? What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Well, it's going to sound like a snow in 60, but I'm hoping it goes well, but I don't see it going well. And there's been violence after violence, and to quote you, you are judged by the company you keep. And they're letting these people support them. Well, then if they start doing things on your behalf that aren't correct, you have to own up to it.
All right. You're paying close attention to those snow in 60s, are you, Denny?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a lot of effort. The effort is to get it all set in 60, which is not my strong suit, as people know. I'm a bit long-winded at times. Abe in Orleans.
How are you, Rob?
I'm okay, Abe. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
I think it'll end violent, or at the bare minimum, the police will use some force, if not excessive force, because I don't see it being peaceful. It could have ended peacefully 2-3 weeks ago if Trudeau wanted it to, but he's just been doing everything in his power to keep adding fuel to the fire, oil to the fire, whatever Legault said.
Yeah. Okay, Abe. Thank you. Last call. We're going to fit everybody in here. Gordon in Bell's Corners. Gordon.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Gordon. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
I think a number of supporters, even no matter what happens today, I think they're going to still show up to show their support. I don't think it will, at least for the weekend, if they do that, I don't think that will get violent.
Okay.
There was an earlier call from Dave who said, he could not make it down, nor can I, physically. But if he wants to see it, there's lots of live streamers. I'm actually watching one with more than 10,000 people watching right this very second.
Wow.
And other people mentioned violence. I've watched over 70 hours of live stream content over the last. I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
But the last part I wanted to state was it was quite interesting. Just today, Trudeau, when he was introducing the Emergencies Act, he actually said even easing travel restrictions. Like he effectively said, our plan is to ease travel restrictions. Well, that's what the truckers have been asking for.
Right. For travelers, for travelers, not truckers. For travelers, not truckers, which is the big,
true, but
right,
they're one and the same. If it's eating,
well, you would think, right?
Exactly, you're right. I would agree with that. They're also.
Let me ask you. Right? You've watched how many hours of what?
70 hours.
What is your fascination with it?
Well, I mean, first of all, I do support the intent.
Okay.
They want to get their freedom back. I think freedom's important for all Canadians.
Sure, of course.
But what spawned me on was hearing all the stuff from the mainstream media or the other media. Just they're racist, fascist, and it's like I can't see Canadians being this way. Like I just can't understand. So I keep watching for it, and I'm able to. I have a TV. I can actually just push the YouTube video up on my TV. So it's just playing in the background kind of thing, and I listen to your show all the time.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay.
And I just keep looking for the violence and the hatred, and I haven't seen any. And that's the part that confuses me.
All right, Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Lots of calls from all across Eastern Ontario. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow on the Talkback Hour, it's the Friday free-for-all, so who knows where things will go. Rob Snow Show, Randall Denley, Postmedia columnist and author on everything that happened at that crazy city council meeting yesterday. This is City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 5 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It's a bit of a change in tone on Parliament Hill this hour at the protest site. We get the latest from our Parliament Hill reporter, Cormac MacSweeney.
Things have calmed down here in front of Parliament Hill with a less visible police presence at the moment. Earlier, though, officers did walk through the crowd, handing out what appear to be final warnings to protesters to leave now or possibly face arrest. Protesters started to get quite aggressive with the police there, following them behind, shouting at them, obscenities. But the clear thing here is that I don't think protesters are planning on going anywhere, including John, who's been standing here holding a sign all morning.
Because I love my country. I'm a patriot, and I don't want to see any more. I don't want to see our rights taken away.
While the police presence directly in front of Parliament Hill seems a bit lighter now, there have been definitely way more officers throughout the morning here on Parliament Hill. I've seen, buses of officers being shipped up, many Ottawa Police, OPP, and RCMP cruisers. There are barricades now set up in front of Parliament Hill to prevent people from accessing the front lawn or trying to make their way to certain buildings. And it seems like police have some sort of perimeter set up around the main demonstration site. So calm now, but the question is, when will police take action to move in and try and break up this convoy protest after gaining new powers through the Emergencies Act? Cormac MacSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 11:03. And now your forecast. Here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Winter storm warning in effect for up to 30 centimeters of snow by early Friday. We've got special weather statements for the rain and the messy mix possible for the afternoon. Already reached our high for the day for the afternoon, 0, -14 for the low. Blowing snow with the north wind. Should end that snow around 6 tomorrow morning, then sun and cloud and a cold high just -11. For today, already reached our high for the day for the afternoon, 0.
And right now in both Ottawa and Smiths Falls, it's 5 degrees. Now, as this convoy protest stretches on, a city councillor is calling for the mayor to resign, saying Jim Watson is anything but a leader. Here's City News reporter Chris Curries with more from Carol Anne Meehan.
He's morally bankrupt.
Strong words from the Gloucester South Nepean rep who resigned last night from the Ottawa Police Board after what she calls dirty politics by the mayor.
I don't want to be part of a new police services board that's being installed at the whim of a mayor who, has been anything but a leader.
She tells City News when the going gets tough, he runs and hides. But he will come up for air when it suits him politically. Others were also forced out or chose to resign in solidarity, including Diane Deans and Ralston King. Chris Curries, City News.
The police board will be meeting at 1 o'clock this afternoon to formally elect a new chair after Diane Deans was ousted last night. City News Time, 11:04. A number of COVID restrictions have eased in the province today. Here's City News reporter Richard Southern.
Well, starting today, as of now, there are no more capacity limits for restaurants, gyms, and movie theaters. Basically, any venue that has to check your vaccine status no longer has any capacity limits as of today. But like most things at Queen's Park, this reopening is very political. Andrea Horvath today accused the Premier of loosening restrictions to appease the truckers.
It really looked like the timing was all about caving to the protesters or the illegal occupiers in Ottawa. And that's just irresponsible.
The Premier has denied that, and 2 days ago he signaled we might be done with COVID restrictions.
Everyone's done with us. We are done with it.
Next date to circle is March 1st. That's when the Vax Pass ends. There's no end date, though, for masking just yet. Richard Southern, City News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
So we're going to spend the next few minutes with the help of Randall Denley, Postmedia columnist for a long time, was the columnist for City Hall, for the Ottawa Citizen, author of so many books. Randall, welcome back. Randall, great to hear from you.
Thanks, Rob.
So everybody has discovered now, the nation has discovered Ottawa City Council. What an introduction. What an introduction to Ottawa City Council. So let's just kind of set this up. Let's play a couple of clips. We interviewed Carol Anne Meehan this morning. There was an attempt yesterday to vote her off of the Ottawa Police Services Board, but by the end of the meeting, she became so fed up with the entire process that she resigned. This is what she said about Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson this morning.
And then have the mayor of the city skew the facts and leak it out to use it against us and twist it. He's morally bankrupt. Rob, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about this, but as a police board service member, I was appealing to Jim Watson. Way back at February the 2nd, I appealed to him directly. I said, Jim, please stand up and be a leader.
Okay, so that was Carol Anne Meehan this morning. And Diane Deans out as chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board. This is Councillor Deans. You don't have Councillor Deans? Oh, I thought you had a clip of Councillor Deans. McKenney, sorry. Okay, let's listen to Councillor McKenney with her assessment of Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson.
I can't even begin to look at where we have failed one residential neighborhood. Public health. When the floods happened, when the tornado happened, they went out. Respite centers. They went out. Wellness checks. I'll finish. I will finish. You'll cut off my mic, but I will finish. Wellness checks. Respite centers. Nothing has happened here. I have not had a phone call from the chair of the Board of Health, medical officer of health, the city manager, the general manager of Emergency and Protective Services. The mayor was only shamed into meeting with me once, and Councillor Fleury. Not one phone call from any of you. You do not care about the residents of the downtown. Don't call me and don't send me messages anymore asking if you can come and help me to respond to emails. It's not what I need. I need stability in this city today. I need it to be stable. And getting rid of half of the board of the police services is not stability. It is not what we need today. There will be time. There will be a postmortem and we'll all answer to it. There will be an inquiry and we'll all answer to it. Did we ask? I will too. I will too. Did I ask the right questions? Did I do enough for the people who elected me to keep them safe? We will all ask for that. We will all answer to that. But now, this is because you don't actually care.
Wow. Okay. So some really damning indictments from members of City Council for Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson. Does he deserve it?
Yes. In a word,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Why?
He has done very little to lead in this. He's done his little media interviews from home talking about the bouncy castles and the hot tubs. Like that was the big issue. He freelanced himself to try to accomplish something, I guess, to get some truckers to pull more into Wellington Street. What that really could have accomplished, I don't know. Didn't do much. So, and the other thing that jumps out at me here, Rob, is that the mayor of Ottawa is an ex-official member of the Police Services Board. He's always given that seat up to somebody else. Can't be bothered. And, when things hit the fan with slowly, his first line of defense is, I'm not a member of the Police Services Board.
That's right, yeah.
I'm only the mayor of Ottawa. I mean, he's certainly not unwilling to wade in, as we saw yesterday, but that said, I don't really know what the Police Service Board was thinking, bringing in an outside interim chief out of policing for 8 years, provincial deputy minister. What was he going to do exactly? And if you want to tell Steve Bell and the people who are actually leading things on the ground in Ottawa, we have no faith in you, well, you couldn't have put it more clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, what would he think? He's the deputy chief. He's now the interim chief, but now everybody knows that they didn't really want him. They wanted some guy we know nothing about who isn't from here and knows nothing about Ottawa. It just doesn't make sense. And I think they were within their power to do it. But if you're going to do it and you're a politician in the environment that we're in now, surely you would have had the sense to reach out to your colleagues, and especially the mayor, and say, look, Peter Slowly is leaving, and this is what we're thinking of doing to solve the problem in the short term. But when you don't do that, and then other people find out about it and go, what? You get what we got yesterday, but what a blow-up. I mean, these people have hated each other for a long time, and now it's just doubled down. How this council gets through the rest of their term at this point, it's going to be very challenging. Yep. It was already a bad situation, but they've made it worse.
Okay, here is Councillor Deans on that decision to hire an interim chief from outside.
Called them many times to see what I can do on the board to assist. And I have worked with the downtown councillors in an effort to make sure that they were getting what they needed. I did that. None of you did. So, you want to criticize me? Go ahead and criticize me. Criticize me all day long. But we have worked in the best interest of this city.
Holy cow. I mean, voices are just cracking and trembling, and it's all coming out, right? It's all spilling out now. Maybe it's the pressure.
Yeah, the extreme frustration that a lot of them feel. And I think, for Diane Dean, sometimes she's thinking about what this means to her political future and her plan to run for mayor, because it doesn't cast her in a very good light. And I think part of getting rid of Peter Slowly was an attempt on her part to say, well, it wasn't my fault, It was the chief. The chief was the problem, which I think he probably was. But we changed the chief. I fixed it. I stepped in and fixed it. Well, it didn't take long to blow up on her, and I think she's in a bad position now. And I'm not sure McKinney's helping herself much either outside the downtown core. But it's just a bleak situation, and it is embarrassing. As we said at the start of this conversation.
But really, the move itself from Watson to make this kind of power move, I'm not surprised at that.
No.
At all.
I'm not
he
either.
has that side to him. I said this morning, there's bake sale Jim, but then there's the other side of Jim. There's the mean Jim.
Oh, yeah.
And that came out yesterday, Yeah.
At the same time, Rob, I think probably something had to be done about that board. What we had was a board that was very dedicated to progressive issues, and lots of good parts to that. But what we need right now are people who are prepared to do actual policing and deal with a difficult issue downtown. And certainly, whatever combination of board members and Slowly were dealing with this, they just weren't making it happen. I mean, I would see Eli El-Shantiri and Jan Harder as councillors who are more likely to cut through the baffle gap and get down to what are we going to do exactly, and let's get it done. That's more their personality, especially Harder's. When she began that Faithful Police Service Board meeting, Dean started it with quite a lengthy version of the usual, noting that we're on unceded land and all that kind of thing. And I thought, is that the right thing to say right now? I mean, is that anything to do with what we're talking about today? But it's just a certain type of person that likes to project certain values. And it isn't about producing results. It's about projecting values. And I think we've seen too much of that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with their values, but we need practical policing right now. I mean, even today, they were down there yesterday, handed out the leaflets. They're there again today handing out leaflets. Like, how many days are we going to take to deal with this?
Yeah.
And you want to get it done before the weekend comes and more people might show up.
Yeah.
You want to get it done before the snowstorm comes.
Yeah.
It makes a big nightmare out of everything.
Well, it's going to start snowing in 5 hours. And it's going to snow. Like, we're getting a real snowstorm. And the weekend is coming.
Yeah, I mean, stop telling people that you're going to arrest them, and just arrest them if that's what's required. Start at one end of Wellington and start working to the other. Start arresting people. The people in the middle and at the other end are going to say, oh, they're actually putting handcuffs on people. Huh. They're actually confiscating vehicles. Maybe I should start up the engine and roll out the other end here.
Right.
And if they don't, fine. Just keep going one end to the other. Just keep arresting people. I know we've created the idea that, you know, just machine guns in the trucks or something is some kind of, you know, huge danger in this, but I think a lot of that's just spin. I mean, I hope it is, but just get it done. I mean, Steve Bell is saying the right things. Today he needs to do them.
Thank you, Randall Denley.
Okay, Rob.
Yeah, speak soon. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, plenty more chapters in this story, I'm afraid.
Sure thing.
Thanks a lot.
Randall Denley. Postmedia, read him in the National Post and the Ottawa Citizen. 11:17, Melissa Lantsman, Conservative Member of Parliament for Thornhill. Next on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the birth of absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then the space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, you know, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky. I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner. Because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place. And then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's the, you know, been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 75, 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like everybody, we went down to 2 employees from 25. And we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's, you know, little steps. So it's been tough. It's, you know, I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine, spring, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and all, and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now. All of a sudden, you know, all 4 of us, 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I think I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, you know, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Right now in the House of Commons, the leader of the bloc is outlining why he will not be supporting the Emergencies Act. Yves-François Blanchette.
That. And it's not all political parties who show that good judgment. We need leadership. And the Prime Minister has failed this test of leadership and the test of freedom. Why? Because of his ideology. because he wants to subject collective freedoms to individual freedoms. He wants to quash the identity of a nation. He wants to talk about a post-national state.
Okay, so Mr. Blanchette right now in the House of Commons. This was yesterday in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister lose his way? When did it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will.
So that was yesterday. The Prime Minister under questioning from Conservative Member of Parliament Melissa Lantsman, the member for Thornhill, joins me this morning on City News. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so
New day.
Yeah, a new day. Okay, a new day. But how did that feel yesterday?
Look, I'm a new member of Parliament, so I don't have the experience that many others have in the House. But no matter if you've been there for 6 months or 6 days or 6 years or 17 years, when the Prime Minister of a G7 country makes a comment to you like that on the floor of the House of Commons, it matters. And I think the words matter. And it was incumbent on me for who I am, what I stand for, and my constituents to get up and call that out.
Okay. Have you heard at all from the Prime Minister or anyone in his office? Has he offered in any way an apology?
No, and I don't think he is, because I think this is exactly indicative of how the Prime Minister has treated what has been going on in Ottawa for 3 weeks now. And I think when you don't agree with him, or when you don't see things the way that he sees things, he lumps you into a group with racists, with misogynists, and with un-Canadians. He others you. So this is just, it's been on display for a number of weeks now, and in my view, a number of years. And yesterday, Canadians saw it loud and clear.
I was thinking, you've been around politics a long time. You're a new member of Parliament, but you're not new to politics. So I was thinking back to the leaders' debate back in 2015. I can't remember which one it was. It may have been the Globe and Mail debate. And the topic was the Syrian refugee crisis. And Mr. Trudeau said something along the lines of, Mr. Harper sees terrorists everywhere. And I remember, for dramatic effect, Mr. Trudeau looking under the desk, looking under the lectern.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Trudeau now, he sees racists everywhere, or he sees Nazis everywhere. What do you think?
Well, he sees the frustration and the dissent that is happening in the country as a result of I think, misguided policies and people who don't agree with him as others. And I think it's a very dangerous game to pit everybody who questions his decisions around COVID restrictions or mandates as racist or misogynist or women haters. That's a problem. It's a problem from anybody, but it's a problem especially when you're the Prime Minister of a G7 country.
What are your constituents saying to you about where we are right now? Your residents in Thornhill.
So I've got a unique riding. I'm one of the only Conservatives in the GTA, and the riding is quite conservative. I win with quite a margin, and people have been frustrated throughout the pandemic. Look, we've had some of the toughest restrictions in Ontario, and then when people are frustrated, they don't necessarily care which level of government is leaning on lockdowns as policy to move us forward. But whatever happens with this, and some constituents are certainly uneasy about the blockades, which we are a party of law and order and have called those wrong. But at the end of all of this, when the trucks are gone, there's still a deep division that exists in the country. I think in places like Thornhill, I've heard a large number of constituents that are very supportive of me pushing on things like travel restrictions and the end to mandates, because I think they want to get on with their lives.
Okay. So today it's the debate in the House of Commons about the Emergencies Act. Where, in your opinion, does this fall short?
Yeah, look, I think there is, I think over the next couple of days, and we're going to be sitting throughout the weekend, the Prime Minister continues to say this isn't the first measure or the second measure or the third measure. It's a last resort. And I think there's a lot of questions about what were those first, second, and third measures? Where was the government for the first 19 days? Why put forward an emergency order when you've never done it before? Throughout the pandemic, throughout different crises, throughout the blockades on rail or gas lines. Why this one? Is it because you don't like what they're saying to you, and is it because you're trying to shut it down? And I think there's a lot of questions around what this means in terms of the government taking power on financial regulations. If you gave $20 to a convoy because you're frustrated with the restrictions, are you now not going to be able to have a mortgage? And there's some serious questions about that I don't think the government's answered.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa Lantsman, for your time this morning.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, bye-bye. That's a newly elected Conservative member, Melissa Lantsman, rising star in the Conservative Party. And I think the truth is, Melissa Lantsman scares the heck out of the Liberals. That's the truth. Openly gay married, super smart, super stylish, extremely media savvy, holds a GTA riding of Thornhill, and fearless, very clearly fearless, and she ran Doug Ford's war room in the last provincial election, key player behind the scenes in a landslide win for the Progressive Conservatives. 11:28, news conference happening now, debate happening in the House, and all kinds of action on Parliament Hill. Cormac MacSweeney, our parliamentary bureau chief, is going to check in with us as well. Very quickly, get an update on the scene right now with the rain set to turn to snow in a few hours' time and some nasty weather over the next few hours. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
News in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Thursday, February 17th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa, it's +5, and in Smiths Falls, +6. Some light rain coming down. Here's what's making news this hour. There was a heavy police presence in and around Parliament Hill this morning, with police handing out what appeared to be final warnings. Although it has calmed down a little bit now, there have been dozens of Ottawa police, OPP and RCMP cruisers throughout the area, and barricades have been set up on the front gates of Parliament Hill to prevent anyone trying to make their way to the lawn. Our City News reporter Cormac MacSweeney will have the latest coming up when he joins the Rob Snow Show. After a fiery council meeting last night, Gloucester South Nepean Councillor Carol Anne Meehan resigned from her role on the police board despite being elected to stay on. Meehan joined the Rob Snow Show earlier, calling the mayor morally bankrupt and that he needed to step forward earlier during this crisis.
Be a leader. And it's not the first time I've asked him to be a leader. And when times get tough, he hides.
The chair of the Police Services Board, Diane Deans, was voted out of her position. There are 61 fewer people in Ontario hospitals today with COVID-19. The province is reporting 1,342 people in hospital with the virus. 356 of them are in the ICU. And Canada reclaimed Olympic women's hockey gold with a 3-2 redemption win over the United States. Canadian captain Marie-Philippe Poulin scored twice, and goaltender Anne-Renee Desbiens made 38 saves in the win. City News Time, 11:32. I'm Danielle Bain, and for News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Let's get to our Parliamentary Bureau Chief, Cormac MacSweeney, on Wellington Street right now. Cormac, what's the latest from Wellington Street?
Well, things seem to have calmed down a bit now. Earlier, it seemed like the police presence was building up. We saw teams of officers walking through the main demonstration here. We saw some aggression as well. There were a group of people who started following the officers, yelling at them, yelling some obscenities. But since that's happened, things have calmed down. The crowd is getting a little bit bigger than it was this morning now, which is a common theme we've seen around the lunch hour. You see more and more people come here. So, we've got barricades set up on Parliament Hill that initially had blocked all access to the front lawn, although they've opened that up now. So some people have gone towards the Centennial Flame and are walking on the front lawn of Parliament Hill. But I think the larger police presence right now is in the outside perimeter of the main demonstration. So through the streets in downtown, you see teams of police officers with yellow jackets, a lot of police cruisers set up, much more than we've seen throughout most of this demonstration. And that led to a lot of speculation that an intervention might be coming soon. We did see officers, as I said before, handing out final notices to the protesters down here, telling them basically, you better leave now or you will be charged.
But as for confrontations, Cormac, largely screaming matches, protesters yelling at the police, right? That sort of thing, right?
Well, I just moments ago, while I was waiting for your call, there was a guy who was getting in the face of a TV crew here, and things got a little bit physical there, and some other people had to intervene, some shoving going on, some people saying you're not helping the cause by doing what you just did to some of the people who were trying to get in the face of the TV cameras. Okay. So, there is some aggression, but largely most of the people down here are just kind of hanging around right now, and most of them say they don't plan on leaving. They're going to stay here. They're going to hold out, and they're willing to get arrested by police for what they believe they're standing for here.
Okay. What's the weather like?
It's drier now. It's been raining all morning, as you know, and that's been a bit of a damper for a lot of people. You know, you're seeing a lot of people walk around with wet coats, but it's getting cooler, and so it was a lot warmer when the rain was happening. It's colder now. We know we've got snow in the forecast. All of this is, it's going to be interesting to see how police treat this. It seemed like they were going to act this morning. They haven't really done much yet. But we've got, 30 centimeters of snow potentially on the way beginning tonight. You had rain this morning. This is around the time where we're going to have a lull in the weather that it wouldn't make it as difficult. Another difficulty for police as well, the amount of children down here. There are a lot of kids. As the morning has moved on, I've been seeing more and more children come here with their parents and are walking around. And of course, Children's Aid Society and the Ottawa Police have all said that that's a big concern of theirs whenever they do attempt an intervention.
Okay. Thank you, Cormac MacSweeney.
Anytime, Rob.
Cormac MacSweeney's our Parliamentary Bureau Chief. He's on Wellington Street right now. Pretty quiet, all things considered. 11:35. Right now, the Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, is holding a news conference outlining the FinTrack.
It's a good question.
Angle to the Emergencies Act.
What are the safeguards? And there, I really want to assure all Canadians that that is something very much on our minds. That is something that we and law enforcement and the financial service providers have been working on very, very carefully. And that's why I say the use of the financial tools is actually going to increase in the coming days, because it was important for us to be sure that safeguards were in place. And I do also want to say that the actions we have taken are emergency measures. Due process remains in place. Charter rights remain in place. And of course, the courts are there, and these will all be institutions that will be there to support Canadians.
Okay, so my follow-up is in two parts then. So you're confirming that accounts have been frozen, both personal and corporate, but you're not releasing the information. And the actual follow-up is, I'm just wondering whether the bank accounts will be targeted of individuals who donated to the Give, Send, Go and the GoFundMe campaigns. Are they considered designated people under the Emergencies Act, meaning that their credit cards could be cut and financial services are targeting them as well?
Okay, so the names of both individuals and entities, as well as crypto wallets, have been shared by the RCMP with financial institutions, and accounts have been frozen, and more accounts will be frozen. Crowdfunding platforms and payment service providers have started the registration process with FinTrack. In terms of the specifics on whose accounts are being frozen, you now have the regulations. The financial service providers have those regulations as well, and they, working with law enforcement, will be making the operational decisions. But I do want to say really clearly to Canadians, we have now outlined with great clarity that these blockades and occupations are illegal. It is now time for people to go home, to take their trucks home, and to stop funding illegal blockades and occupations.
Yes, Alex Ballingal with the Toronto Star. Just on the same subject, the warning that you're issuing to the drivers about their accounts being suspended and their truck insurance being suspended is pretty unequivocal. So I'm wondering if you can say or shed some light on whether to what degree, I guess, the large financial institutions are actually on board with this, and also clarify exactly why you can't share the figures, why that's an operational secret at this point.
The Emergencies Act has compelled financial service providers to take these actions, and we have provided them with immunity for actions undertaken in good faith under these measures. Those are two important facts. The financial service providers have a stake in Canada and the Canadian economy, and they are a really important institutional pillar of Canada. They are, as they are legally obliged to do, collaborating properly and effectively with the RCMP, with law enforcement. In terms of disclosing specifics, all of us had a conversation yesterday with law enforcement about that, and there was a clear view that it's important right now not to in any way jeopardize the very important work law enforcement is taking. And that's why I'm not disclosing the specifics, but let me assure you, those details will be disclosed in due course and soon. And I want you to know it is happening. I do have the numbers in front of me. And I do particularly want people who are participating in illegal blockades and in illegal occupation to know these measures are real. They are being used. They will have an impact. And there is a really easy way to avoid being affected by these measures. And that is just go home, go back to work.
And I think that Minister Mendicino, you mentioned that all the border crossings that have been blockaded are cleared. There's been attempts, I guess, to re-blockade them, and that's been part of the justification you guys have used for the Emergencies Act. But you've also mentioned that you want to lift this emergency declaration before the 30-day limit is up. So if the concern is them returning, what are the conditions you need to see, I guess, as a government, as a cabinet, in order to actually lift this emergency declaration?
Well, first and foremost, one of the conditions is that the blockades are no longer there. And that is one of the reasons why we have been going to great pains over the last number of days to send a very clear, unequivocal message to those who are participating in them, be they at a border or in front of a legislature, including here in Ottawa in front of the Parliament, but equally in the communities and in the neighborhoods where these are no longer just mere disturbances of the peace, where there has been a rampant and flagrant disregard for the law. The time is now to stop and to go home. And you've heard me say it, you've heard Minister Blair say it, you've heard the Deputy Prime Minister say it, you've heard the Prime Minister say it, you've heard yesterday the interim Ottawa Police Chief say it. There should be no ambiguity right now to anyone that is still participating in an illegal blockade, whether it's for some misguided belief that this is a lawful protest when it is not, or for some other more malevolent purpose. The time is to go home. And the invocation of the Emergencies Act is a resort that we came to as a result of the significant challenges that law enforcement using conventional tools had faced for the last 3 weeks. And while we have made progress, while we see that the ports of entry are open right now, I would suggest that at this fragile moment, it's precarious. I mean, yesterday you just heard Mayor Drew Dilkins in the course of a press conference say that there was yet another effort to try and shut it down again. And so, yes, I mean, I think we all want to be cautiously optimistic that we are coming to the end of it. But in the meantime, as a government, we have an obligation and a responsibility to Canadians to make sure that we are using all of the tools in the box. And yes, that includes declaring certain areas as no-go zones. That includes the ability to commandeer the kind of assets that are required to preserve the flow of traffic at our critical infrastructure, including at our borders. That includes choking off proceeds, currencies that may be used to advance the illegal blockade. And in the case of the RCMP, that includes using a very important and time-limited measure to be able to rapidly deploy them so that we can ensure that there is public safety. So, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. And obviously, it is our desire to see the measures that we have introduced under the order sunset as quickly as possible. But that will be a decision that is taken, again, very carefully on the advice of our officials, on the advice of law enforcement, and what we're seeing and hearing on the ground.
Thanks. We'll take one more question in the room and then take questions from the phone. Une autre question dans la salle, ensuite des questions par téléphone.
Oui, bonjour, Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour vous, Madame Freeland.
Question.
For Ms. Freeland.
Oui, il n'y a pas de problème, prenez votre temps.
Yeah, take your time. No problem.
Sur les comptes gelés, sur les comptes bancaires.
Sur les comptes bancaires, oui.
Gelés. Je comprends que vous ne pouvez pas nous donner de noms précis ou de chiffres précis, mais est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner au moins un ordre de grandeur? Est-ce qu'on parle de quelques dizaines de comptes, quelques centaines de comptes qui ont été gelés jusqu'à maintenant?
Aujourd'hui, on a pris la décision, après une discussion avec les gens qui ont la responsabilité opérationnelle de mettre en œuvre ces mesures, que ce n'est pas le moment de parler avec les Canadiens concernant les détails d'accords gelés. Mais je peux vous assurer qu'il y a jusqu'à ce moment des accords qui sont gelés. C'est un processus continuel. C'est un processus qui va s'accélérer si les blocages, si l'occupation continue.
Vous dites aussi qu'il y a des éléments extrémistes violents dans ce mouvement de barricades, de blocage au pays. Quelles preuves concrètes est-ce que vous avez de ça que vous pouvez partager avec nous?
So we're going to leave. This is a major news briefing that's happening right now while the debate in Parliament happens on the Emergencies Act. We have all the big cabinet ministers with the big portfolios right now, including the Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, because it says in the Emergencies Act that these measures will regulate or prohibit the use of property to fund or support the blockade, to require any crowdfunding platform and payment processor to report certain transactions to FinTrack, and to require any financial service provider to determine whether they have in their possession or control property that belongs to a person who participates in the blockade. And the finance minister has already confirmed that commercial accounts have been frozen, personal accounts have been frozen, and more bank accounts will be frozen. That right from the finance minister. We'll be right back. Rob Snow Show, City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Centre. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit, but people I think know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard, so we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch. to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Making the rounds on social media now on Twitter. There's a boat. Somebody's towed their boat up to Wellington Street. How big would you say that boat is?
That
18
boat,
foot? 18
to 20 feet.
Yeah, 18 to 20 feet.
Pleasure craft.
Yeah. Like what do they call them? Like a cabin cruiser or something. It's a pleasure boat it's the kind of boat that would have a little cabin down below, right?
Yeah.
A little sleeping quarters down below.
He's living in it for sure.
Yeah. Well, he says he's living in it, and that he has a barbecue and a propane heater, and
the
that's
kind
what
of
he's been
boat you
living in.
see on the Rideau Canal all the time.
All the time.
Summer.
Yeah.
People will moor them downtown and sleep in them overnight.
Yeah. Because I guess he doesn't have a camper trailer, so he's
got a boat.
He brought his boat.
What do you need a trailer for?
It was raining. Holy cow! We shouldn't laugh. It was raining so hard this morning. You could almost use that boat. My gosh.
Yeah, well, I thought they might be putting 2 MPs from each party on it, kind of an ARC situation.
Man, oh man. Well, I mean, the events of the last 21 days have been biblical, so you're maybe onto something there. I think one of the FinTrack angles to all of this. And the goal to cut off the funding to the organizers of the blockade, and Chrystia Freeland was asked about this repeatedly in this news conference, and I really don't think she's ever really given a clear answer to this. Is what if you donated to the convoy? Like, what if you donated to Give, Send, Go? Because your name is out there, right? And then they're doing the doxing thing for all the contributors. Can the government seize your bank account? I don't know if this has really adequately been answered yet. The language in the order says regulate or prohibit the use of property. Prohibit the use of property to fund or support the blockade, which is pretty wide open to interpretation. Prohibit the use of property to fund or support the blockade. Require any crowdfunding platform payment processor to report certain transactions. Certain transactions. A $500 transaction, a $5,000 transaction, a $50,000 transaction. And to require any financial service provider to determine whether they have in their possession or control property that belongs to a person who participates in the blockade. That's what it says. And she has said commercial accounts have been frozen and personal accounts have been frozen and more accounts will be frozen. That's what I took away from that. Marco Mendicino is speaking up, public safety minister.
Ottawa. Non, mais c'est important, c'est une clarification très importante. Quoi que je viens de dire hier, et même à mes collègues, est qu'il y a des rapportages publics qui démontraient des indications qu'il y a une motivation idéologique.
All right, let's leave that for a second. On children, I want to read you just the language in the orders, the Emergencies Act orders, because we just had Cormac MacSweeney on from Wellington Street, our parliamentary bureau chief. Lots of children, lots of families around again today. On children, in the emergency orders, it says a person must not cause a person under the age of 18 to participate in an assembly. So it's not like just little children. It's you're not allowed to be a teenager and be up there under these emergency orders. A person must not cause a person under the age of 18 years to travel to or within 500 meters of an area where an assembly is taking place. And on protected places, because the Act gives the government the authority to designate certain areas protected places, and then it can move in and secure those protected places. They are listed as Parliament Hill, obviously, and the Parliamentary Precinct, which is defined in Section 79.51 of the Parliament of Canada Act, which I haven't read in a while. All official residences, government buildings, defense buildings, any property that is a building structure or part thereof that primarily serves as a monument to honor persons who were killed or died as a consequence of war, including war memorial, cenotaph, or an object associated with honoring or remembering those persons that is located in or on the grounds of such a building or structure or a cemetery. So the war memorial, obviously. And as for the penalties, summary conviction is a $500 fine and 6 months in jail, or both. And if it's indictment, like an indictable offense, fine not exceeding $5,000, or imprisonment, like federal time, for a term not exceeding 5 years, or both. So that's what's in some of the emergencies orders that they are debating right now in the House of Commons while the cabinet ministers take questions. So that's it for me, the Rob Snow Show. Sam LaPrade is standing by, and her first guest for the Sam LaPrade Show, David, is
former chair of the Ottawa Police Board, Diane Deans.
Diane Deans. Right after the noon news. Diane Deans on her version of events. What went down yesterday at that wild and crazy city council meeting? That's coming up on the Sam LaPrade Show here on City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Tune in weekdays starting at 9 on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.